Welcome, everyone, to Champion Your Life with me, Leighanne Champion. This is where we get to reflect, refine, and reboot your one precious life. In this space, we take a deeper look at what's holding you back. Maybe you want to show up differently for the people in your life. Maybe you're struggling with your emotional well-being. Maybe you feel as though something's missing and you want to get excited about your future. There's some good news. You can shift your perspective and begin to walk through the world in new, refreshing ways. I am a certified life and well-being coach who was called to create this show as a means to facilitate a journey of personal development. You have the power to change. Your life is precious. Don't waste another minute feeling unfulfilled. Champion Your Life starts now. Hello, welcome back. Good to be with you all again. Is it really February 2022? Actually, when I woke up this morning, I was like, this is kind of a cool day, 2/2/22. Anyway, life is moving fast. And given the state of the world, I thought we would discuss some things that are just important, really important. Negative thinking, negative thoughts. Do you have any of those going on? But seriously, have you ever noticed or paid attention to how many times you have so many thoughts just swirling around in your head? They can be constant, can't they? And often those thoughts will go negative on us. They can go south, and it creates what I like to refer to as a thought tornado. I actually had one last night. Those thought tornadoes, well, they can get in the way of us moving forward, right? Staying productive and excited about our lives and enjoying our most important relationships. So today, I want to help bring awareness to these pattern thought tornadoes that are causing people so much chaos and suffering these days. So the question that I have for you is, have you ever thought about what it means to think deliberately? Now, most people believe that their thoughts are something they have zero control over. But the good news here is I promise you, you do. Often what we humans do is we go straight to the negative or the worry. I call it the negative default thinking. We relive events of the past that were painful, or we worry about what's going on right now, right? And this inevitably will keep us stuck, unable to move forward, or even be able to just enjoy the gifts of the present moment. So deliberate thinking is when we decide to actively interrupt our negative thought pattern, to think of a more positive substitute, a more helpful idea, a more useful thought to think. And by choosing deliberate thoughts to think daily, it really does help. It helps us to create and improve our moods, our attitudes, our productivity, and our beliefs. You've heard that saying, we are what we eat. However, I believe the reality is much, much more. We are what we think. And it's so fascinating to think about how anger and jealousy and pride and envy, sadness, frustration, all the other hit list of negative emotions, they all have their roots in the way we think. And that is why it is so important for us to learn these skills of becoming aware and to learn to take responsibility for what we are choosing to think. You know, it's interesting. Often we think it's the circumstances of our lives that are causing how we're feeling. But in fact, it's always the thoughts that we have chosen to think that are causing our emotions. Now, I know that is kind of a bitter truth pill to swallow. I didn't like it at first either, but it really just needs to be said. If this is just one thing I want you to consider from today, it is this. I'm going to say it again. It's always always the thoughts that we have chosen to think that are causing our emotions. It's fascinating. Neuroscientists can now demonstrate that every thought that we have sends electrical and chemical signals throughout our brains, ultimately affecting every cell in our bodies. Our thoughts influence our sleep, our digestion, the chemical makeup of our blood. I started to recognize and see this when I was so much younger, just how profound the mind-body connection really, truly is. And I can remember when I first heard this following quote, whoa, it really, it spoke to me. Here it is. The secret conversations that you hold in the privacy of your own mind are shaping your destiny little by little. Powerful, right? You might want to write that one down. I'm going to say it again. The secret conversations that you hold in the privacy of your own mind are shaping your destiny little by little. Now, I want you to think about this for a second with me. Your future is directly determined by what you tell yourself on a daily basis. This means that our minds are powerful enough to shape the arcs of our lives. And with great power comes great responsibility. I think we've heard that from Spider-Man a time or two, but he's right. I mean, what we decide to focus on is important. It's what we feed our minds. Our minds are powerful. And we must never underestimate what we tell ourselves every day. And here's another fact that really blew my mind. New research indicates that the average person thinks approximately 60 to 80,000 thoughts per day. You know what? It just makes my head hurt every time I share this information. My brain's always like, what? I mean, because this is either really good news or bad news, right? Because every thought we have either moves us toward our God-given potential or away from it. And this statistic too is really fascinating. So 90% of the thoughts, you know, the 60 to 80,000 thoughts that we have every day are repeats. Repeats from yesterday or the day before. This is why affecting positive change is so difficult for so many people. And I would actually say the biggest challenge that I've seen with my clients in the last couple of years is a very, very real struggle of managing their thought life. I mean, they're either dealing with this themselves or they have someone intimately in their lives that's really struggling with negativity and it's directly affecting them. And for those that are struggling with negativity, the glass is usually half empty. And the light at the end of the tunnel is usually a train coming straight at them. Now, look, we know we all have tendencies towards negative thinking. And sometimes we're not even aware of it. And I get that because you may be saying to yourself, hey, I'm just being realistic. However, we really need to see that negative thinking can paralyze our ability to combat this crazy culture of blame that we are living in currently and prevent us from taking hold of our lives. Taking chances and risks and dreaming amazing dreams takes a lot of energy and passion. But boy, oh boy, that energy and passion gets zapped in a nanosecond when we are plagued by negative thinking. But you know what I want to do? I want to let you in on a little secret about negativity or negative thoughts. Just because you feel it or think it or say it doesn't mean it's always true. I know, not to say your feelings aren't valid, but what I want to do right now is challenge you for a moment. I want you to have the courage to question your mind, your thinking, your thoughts. They're saying something to you for sure, but perhaps not what they should be saying. So, sometimes I'll have one of those days it feels like my brain is going to explode because of all my negative thoughts. But instead of beating myself up, I do a thought download. And I know many of you have heard what these are from previous podcasts, but I love to do a thought download every day, but especially when I'm jumbled up in my thinking. That really just helps me to get clear on what is going on in my mind. So I write out, I take a pad like this and I'll write it all out and I have a good look. And then I'm like, whoa, wow, Leighanne, really? What's going on in there? Look at these thoughts. But you know what? That's all they are. They're just negative, errant, pesky thoughts. And I look at them again and I'm like, are these thoughts serving you? I want you to begin to look at your negative thoughts as an opportunity to question your thinking, an opportunity to slowly start carving your destiny with more intentional thinking. What a fun, simple, easy step to a brighter tomorrow, right? And now if this is resonating as I'm saying this, awesome, let it sink in. And I just really want you to consider this. I know what you're thinking. We are living in strange times for sure, but that is all the more reason that we should be quite intentional with our thinking. It's an emotional time for virtually everyone I speak to, and it can be exhausting to have all these feelings. But it can be fascinating to watch our emotions surface in mysterious ways. I want you to pay attention. One day you might be really tired and cranky, and the next day, you're good, you're fine. And the next day you're kind of weepy, and your temper may be kind of short. All I'm saying right now is don't pass judgment on yourself. I want you instead just to become the watcher of yourself, the watcher of your mind. Just be aware of the feelings as they come and go. And most of the time, and this is key, you don't need to react or respond. Just observe the situation and yourself. When you do this, it helps you see that every thought you might be thinking isn't necessarily true, real, or helpful in your life. They're just thoughts passing on through. We need to be able to identify the thoughts that really matter and need attention, and also determine which of those thoughts can just be let go of, right? Or as I like to say, let them go, kick them to the curb. And you know what's so amazing is just the awareness that we're thinking unconscious thoughts that are negative will create change in our lives. We don't even have to make a big deal about it. We can just notice, and then the transformation will begin. We're going to go for just a quick break here, 1 minute. You're listening to Champion Your Life. And when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation, because what do we have? We only have one precious life. So let's get to the work of it. Let's talk about all the things. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Champion Your Life. We've been talking about, thought tornadoes and negative thinking, and learning a new approach, something that is so powerful, deliberate thinking. So I had an email that came to me that was so poignant that I wanted to share it with you all. I think it's something that we all go through, but don't really want to talk about it or admit it. So I'm just going to go ahead and read this to you. Hang on, bear with me for a second. Hi, Leighanne. I'm so glad you're going to be talking about negative thoughts on your podcast. I wake up every morning thinking nothing but negative thoughts. It starts my day off so poorly, and it's very hard to shake. It's a lot of thoughts like, I'm not enough, or what's next for me? And it doesn't make me want to get going at all. Any advice for me? P.S. This seems to be more the norm since the pandemic began. So, well, first of all, thank you for reaching out. This is such a great question. And when we wake up and instantly have negative thoughts, do you know what that is? It's actually a habit. It's an unconscious habit and pattern of feeling. So what we've done here is we've created a habit of unnecessary negativity for ourselves. Well, almost like extra drama, right? So, but what I want to say is, first off, good on you for seeing this, because so many of our thoughts are not even conscious. So you notice the pattern and you are already ahead of the game. So right now, what you may have going on for you is a connection in your brain that believes you're not good enough. And I know many of you have heard of the term neuroplasticity, which literally means that we, like the railroad, have the ability to lay down new tracks that will take us to new destinations. There are neurons in our brain that fire together and wire together to override past conditioning and beliefs and assumptions. And believe me, this is a beautiful thing, isn't it? To think that we can relearn. But what we also must remember that we're up against, it's our primal brain that's always trying to protect us. That part of the brain is always like, stay in the cave, stay by the fire, don't go do anything risky, don't do it. But we as a species obviously have evolved, so we have to override that primal part of our brain, because our primal brain focuses on like survival mechanics. Because remember, back in the day, we were too busy avoiding getting eaten on a daily basis. We were avoiding getting killed by the mastodons. It's not exactly the most helpful reaction or response for us in 2022. So what do we do here? We have to calm our primal brain down and then activate the more logical part of our brain, our prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that loves when we plan, when we embrace new ideas. And this is the part of the brain that will help us decide to think new things. And in order to think something new, it's a bit cumbersome in the beginning. I like to say it's a little bit like a new sport, like golf. I think golf's a great example, as it's very, very cumbersome for me, at least for me to learn. It takes a ton of focus and energy and about, 25 million rounds of golf before it feels remotely natural. But truly, all those things that you have to think about while playing this game will eventually become more practiced, right? And efficient in your brain, as long as you keep at it, right? And why am I telling you this? Well, because this is the same process for creating new thoughts. Now, stay with me. We talked earlier about the thought download, where you write everything down that's going on in your brain, right? Why do we do that? Because we need to pay a close attention to all of our thoughts and feelings, as they are the ones that will be fueling your day, right? Your future. So if you wake up with a thought tornado, I want you to immediately grab your notebook, hopefully that many of you are now using for your thought downloads, and just write out all the negative thoughts. Write them down, let them rip. And then what I want you to do is just take a moment and sit with them. Just study them. Circle the ones that you really want to change, the ones that are like on kind of repeat in your brain and causing you to suffer, right? And then just pick one to work on. From there, you get to decide what you want to feel, create, and do with this thought. For example, a repetitive thought you might be having is, I thought I would be a lot further along in life than I am. You know what? I hear this one a lot from clients. It's not a fave. This is one of those insidious thoughts that can hang out with us and cause a lot of discouragement, right? So eventually you have to come to the conclusion that you hate how this thought is making you feel. And saying that over and over in the privacy of your own mind is not really serving you, is it? So you need to ask yourself, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to change it? So from here, what I want you to do is I want you to look for a more neutral thought, one that's a little more hopeful, more forward thinking, one that gets your brain searching for ideas. We always love to put our brain to work. So remember that first thought was, I thought I would be a lot further along in my life by now. So now we're going to try out a little more neutral thought. And it could be something like, I want to figure out my next logical step for my future. Or another neutral thought might be, hey, I want to identify my strengths and gifts as they will help clarify my next steps. Now, meanwhile, I want you to be writing all of this down in your journal. When we give our brain a new thought to think, it immediately loves to go to work for you. Again, though, it needs to be directed. But is this neutral thought one that you can believe? Does it lead you to a place where you want to consider new things? One that gets you curious, one that gets you excited. Notice how we shift from a thought that really causes us to feel kind of out of control to one that helps us to see, oh, I'm less out of control here. It's a neutral thought. Then we move all the way up the ladder to a thought that's very empowering. Now, this process can take days or weeks or even months, depending on how consciously you decide to think new thoughts. For example, your new empowering thought may be, I have one precious life. I'm going to make my next steps and my future goals my priority. Again, you have to kind of tune in and check in with this new thought and make sure that you're ready for it. And here's just something else to consider. New thoughts are great, but if they're so positive that they're not believable to you, your brain's going to rebel. It's going to be like, nope, I don't buy that. And what happens when we don't buy it? We just go back to all our negative thoughts. So often we just need to give our brains a little more time and space to believe what we want to think, what we're trying on. And you must really buy into it to create change, real lasting change. Can you see how this work is very powerful? We spend way too much time worrying about our bodies when it is our emotional well-being that we should be giving at least equal time to. If we take the time to pay attention to our thoughts and redirect them, we'll be interrupting those negative thought patterns that have been constant for too long. You're going to shake it up and you will feel a difference. I want to share some of my favorite intentional morning thoughts that helped me kick my negativity to the curb. So typically, in the morning, after spending time in prayer and stating what I'm grateful for and praying for all of my people, I say, God, I see your hand all over my life. Thank you. And then I'll say, I am a life coach who is here on this earth to help other people and serve other people so that they can live their best lives. And then if I need to kickstart my day a little bit, I say, I have a marvelous and creative brain and I'm putting it to work right now. And my other one that I say a lot is, I know that stress and worry pretend to be necessary. I'm going to let them go today. Now, these are mine, but I really encourage you to take the time to create yours. In closing, the way to really, truly enjoy our lives is not by running away from negative emotion, because you know what? It's going to come up. It's going to find us, but instead by learning how to examine it, allow for it, understanding that it's ultimately part of life, part of the 50-50. And when we're willing to do that, it gives us this full experience of being alive. When we choose to no longer resist or react or avoid any emotion, that's when we find real freedom and real strength. The more you're actually willing to feel negative emotion, the better you get at it, the less difficult it is, and the stronger and more resilient you become. It's been so great talking to you all. I'm envisioning you all listening from all corners of the globe, which I think actually is the coolest part about Transformation Talk Radio. I hope this has resonated. And listen again if you need to let it sink in. Try that thought download to find that new thought you want to believe. These tools really work. And if you do create some new thoughts, share them with me. Let me know. Reach out to me on Insta or Facebook or on my website, LeighanneChampionCoaching.com. I'd love nothing more than to hear from you. You know, what do we have? Again, one precious life. Let's get to the work of it. Godspeed. Thank you for listening to Champion Your Life with me, Leighanne Champion, on TransformationTalkRadio.com. To find out more about me and my coaching platform, visit ChampionYourLife.com. That's ChampionYourLife.com. You have one precious life. Let's live it to your fullest potential. Let's go. Let's do this together. See you next time.